Good afternoon, everyone. This is Joe Papano from FiberLink Communications. I'm back, so I know I was traveling for the last couple of webinars, and Chris Corbett ably filled my spot. Thanks for attending today, and we hope you're going to find the next 45 minutes or so interesting and informative. If you're having trouble hearing and you would like to dial in versus listen over your computer, I think John Harrington just shot over to you some instructions on how to connect to the bridge if you would prefer to do that. Otherwise, you can listen through your computer speakers. As always, we are going to kind of quickly move through some slides. Should be about 25 to 30 minutes. If you've got questions or comments, please shoot them to us through the chat or Q&A panel, and we'll do our best to cover them. Those are kind of the ground rules. One other thing, if you're interested in following the latest and greatest news about MAZ360, we would ask you to follow us on Twitter. So follow MAZ360 on Twitter if you want to stay abreast of what we're up to. And we're going to dive in right now. So today we're going to talk about a topic that is certainly one that comes up when we're meeting with customers. And it is, mobile expense management. How do you handle that, and how do you help companies and users manage their mobile data use? Because obviously there are charges that are associated with that. So companies are rightfully concerned and want to make sure they've got tools that help them do the best job possible there. So we've got Chuck Brown from our product management team today to provide us with some information about kind of the current state of the world around mobile data. What are people doing over their smartphones and tablets to some degree? And how does that impact cost? And then finally, we're going to get into some features and functions that MAZ360 provides that can help end users and IT departments make some better decisions around mobile data usage. So, Chuck, thanks for joining today.
Well, thanks, Joe. Thanks for that introduction and the overview itself. I hope everyone can see the screens. And we just have today three main topics. The current state of affairs in mobile data usage. Basically what are the trends and what we see and what other organizations see and what we think is going to be happening in the future. And as Joe just alluded to, how are you going to be able to manage this mobile data expense from the corporate level and the individual level? The current situation. We're getting right down to brass tacks. Who pays for this? As you can see right off the bat on this chart, we still have 50% of companies paying for data usage itself, and 35% are the employee. We see that actually going to be shifting in the future, especially with a bring your own device type of situation within an organization or an enterprise itself, and the adoption of smart devices overall.
So we're gonna jump in and run our first poll today and kind of ask you. So Chuck's kind of shared what we found in our research and through talking with customers. We're going to ask you, a question about that.
Okay. 1 second, Joe. Now, we have that chart out there of who pays, but how many of you out there actually know what eats up your data plan? And that's a pretty good question. I'm not sure anybody really knows what it does. So this is just a straight division spreadsheet showing, an approximate 2 gig plan. Now, granted, all this stuff is approximate. And how many emails you can get in 2 gigs over a month? Quite a number of them, as a matter of fact, close to 700,000. You got, the average approximate size of a Word doc, 70 kilobytes, 30,000, and then we're starting to go farther and farther down. Now you're looking at PowerPoint presentations being 3 meg. Now you're starting to get smaller and smaller. That you can fit into a gig or 2 gigs over a monthly basis. Even a web page lookup being 150 KB. We're so connected right now. 13,000 or 14,000 web page lookups seems like a heck of a lot. But if you think about that over a 30-day period, it's not that many. And just alone on that, you could be using 2 gigs over a month. But now, songs at 3 meg and videos, YouTube videos, 3-minute videos at 15 meg, is starting to shrink it down and eat it up quickly.
So I think you've got some data later that I thought was pretty shocking about
It's going to jump
YouTube.
in. Yes, absolutely.
So, hold on for that. Hey, we're going to run our second poll right now. And what we're going to ask is pretty simple. If you have a bring your own device plan or program in place in your company, how do you reimburse the employees for their data usage? Yes, no, or you don't have such a plan?
Okay, thank you. Now, this next slide is just an average and approximation of cost for plans. Now, this is across all your providers, and it's no individual provider itself. So this is just giving some people an idea of how much a gig plan a month costs, starting at about $19.99, $20. 2 gigs starting at $25 goes up a little bit more, same with 3 and 5, and up to 10 to 12 gigs per month. Along with that, we have a number of overages on top of that. Within the U.S. itself, well, one thing we're missing on this slide, you don't see too many unlimited plans anymore. And across the U.S. may be one of the last bastions of unlimited plans in the world itself. Even up in Canada, there's, the unlimited plans have gone away. UK, EMEA, Europe, unlimited plans have gone away, and it seems like unlimited plans are going away within the United States also.
And I think for consumers, for sure, I know with organizations, there's also these kind of hybrid pooled plans where, a pool of minutes get shared across all users, right? That's
true. Yeah, and within the enterprises themselves, there's much better pooling, but for an individual, right, it's almost a single point.
And so, here's kind of one interesting point, I guess, from the poll results here. So, of the folks who responded that their company actually allows users to bring their own device in, frankly, 7 out of 10 don't reimburse their employees for the cost of that. And, we're certainly not judging whether that's right or wrong. That's not the point.
It's just the way it is.
But it's probably not a bad thing, though, and to help people make better decisions or at least know where they are, which oftentimes is difficult to do until, something unfortunate's happened, like somebody's blown through a cap.
Right. Absolutely, Joe. It's good information to have. So now a number of different data usage trends that we've seen with some of our research here. This is a very interesting chart. As you can see, data usage has climbed 89% through the first quarter of 2009 through the first quarter of 2011. Now, granted, that's 2 quarters back, but still, this is just an extremely interesting chart itself. If you take a look at it, in the last 12 months, the amount of data the average smartphone user consumes per month has grown 89%, from about 230 megabytes in Q1 of 2010 to 435 megabytes in Q1 of 2011. That's pretty big.
So the average usage is 435 per month?
Yes.
Okay.
But then on top of that, data usage for the top 10% of your smartphone users, which is your 90 percentile portion, is up 109%. But shockingly, the top 1%, which is a pretty big buzzword these days, the top 1% of the users have grown their usage about 155%, from 1.8 gigabytes in Q1 of 2010 to over 4.6 gig in Q1 of 2011 per month. That's a heck of a lot of stuff. And if you look at the trend here, it's just up and to the right, and it's exponential. You're going to see that go even higher going through the second half of 2011 into 2012. So like in June next year, we'll be able to see what happens from Q1 of 2009 through Q1 of 2012.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I don't think I don't think anybody here or on the call thinks this trend's going to flatten or turn the other way. I mean, if anything, with for example, things like iCloud, where backups used to just be local to your computer, now they're going through the cloud across now if you're in your home, it's probably going across your home broadband, but if you're somewhere else, it's not. It's only going to
That's true, especially
push more
like
data
on the
through.
tablet.
Right.
The data on the tablet going up to the cloud itself. It is going to go higher and higher.
And that's not even considering all the apps that, frankly, in media people want to consume now, that's shifting from, okay, I'm going to copy a movie from my iTunes library to my iPad so I can watch it.
Yeah, when you're on the plane, yeah.
Yeah, to, okay, I just want to, find Netflix and stream one to me, right?
Well, that's a pretty interesting one with the Netflix and streaming. I think we're changing the whole communication scenario here.
So I think we're really at the beginning of a trend here, not anywhere near the end.
Oh, absolutely. We're just scratching the surface today. Now on the next one, usage by OS itself. This is, once again, pretty interesting. When you look at it, consumers with iPhones and Androids consume the most data. I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist to really figure that one out. But an Android user right now is averaging per month 582 meg of data, or owner, I should say, and an iPhone user or owner 492. You can see in the middle, though, that the Windows Phone 7 is really jumped, and they have doubled their usage over the past 2 quarters, Q4 2010 and Q1 of 2011. That's not to say they're going to beat out Android or iOS. We're just seeing a pretty big jump on this, and so is Nielsen seeing a pretty big jump on that usage itself. The Windows Mobile and the BlackBerry OSs are pretty much flatlining. Actually, the Windows Mobile is going down, and I think we'll continue to see that go down. And on the top two, the Android and iOS, we'll continue to see that go up, but not dramatically as much as they used to.
And this is like aggregate usage across every Android device or iOS?
Yes, it's just at the OS level. We're not going HTC.
Part of this might be a reflection of just market share trends among the device vendors, right?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that is true. I just read another article today on this, and in Q2 of 2010, 40% of all U.S. mobile phones are smartphones, and 40% of that number are Androids. 28% are iOS devices.
Right. So I mean, it would then, considering that maybe Android has a higher market share right now than iOS, the reality is iOS devices may be more data hungry than Android devices in reality.
That's true. Yeah, it's just making it up right there. That's true, Joe. Now on application usage, a lot of crossing lines here. As you can see, the application breakdown itself, the web browsing is flattening out or actually trending down. File sharing, once again, is trending down. But video streaming is the new way of communication, it seems like, and that's trending up and to the right. And that would be your yellow. The VoIP, or voice over IP and IM, once again, it's about 5%, but it seems to have plateaued at that point. This is actually, this is pretty interesting, especially with the video streaming going up. Is this a change in their communication patterns as people? You're looking at YouTube right at the top. We're seeing that YouTube accounts for 22% of mobile data bandwidth usage and 52% of all total video streaming.
That is the one that really surprised me when I saw that. And I think, the stat you got right below is probably why, the usage for people with iPhones and iPads is higher per device. They're just much more. They seem to be much more connected from a cloud perspective than maybe Android users are.
Absolutely, that's true, Joe. And then the App Store generates Apple's App Store generates 84% of download traffic, or overall App Store download traffic, and Android 13%, which is kind of counterintuitive to the other chart. But
well, I think it explains why, frankly, the data usage overall is almost identical, even though there's frankly a big difference in
numbers, total
number
market
of
share
the devices of those types. And everything. I think, what it comes down to is folks with, iPhones and iPads tend to use them a lot more.
A lot more, yeah.
Or using them in ways that consume bandwidth.
That's true. And once again, the same article I read today is saying that it really validates that second bullet point there, saying that Android and iPhone users found that the two groups downloaded 83% of all mobile apps in the last 30 days.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. And it's probably shifting toward the iOS side, doing a lot of downloads at that point.
Yeah, I think folks, I've got both. I've got an iPad and I've also got an Android phone, and I would have to say that I'm probably got many more apps on my iPad than I do on my Android smartphone.
Same here. I have both, and same here.
So that kind of doesn't surprise me, I guess. And obviously, Apple owns the tablet space, so that traffic. It'd be interesting to see a breakup of that Apple traffic between iPads and iPhones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then 32. The last two bullet points here. 32% of mobile operators worldwide have already implemented application-aware charging, so they're monetizing what is being downloaded and how. And 51%, I think, growing, of the operators no longer offer unlimited data plans.
So they were nice while they were available.
But they're going away. And I think probably in the next 3, 4, 5 years, we'll see that number up to about 85%.
Yeah, I suppose.
Unless something else changes.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 second.
So we're going to run our last poll right now, and what we would like to know is if you feel that your employees would like to be notified of where they are with their data usage during a month. Is that something that you think would be valuable to provide to them, especially if they're using their own device for company business? And we'll share that with you in a minute. But I think, this information, I think, just kind of sets the stage, right, for that question, right? Which
Absolutely.
is, okay, we all admit this is only going in one direction. And obviously, people worry about money. It's a valid thing to be concerned about. And so, obviously, any tools that companies can provide to help people make better use of their mobile device and use it, for some corporate business as well as their, in their personal lives is probably going to be better. So I think we're kind of going to jump over to kind of another aspect of this now.
Right. I actually jumped over a slide inadvertently. Sorry, Joe. A couple of other trends that we're seeing on operator charging. 32% of the mobile operators employ application-aware charging, something that we just mentioned a minute ago. 89% of the mobile operators employ volume charging methods, sometimes in conjunction with capping or soft capping, pricing plans, over quota subscribers, and then they go back and look for a service plan upgrade, so you're not getting hit with these overages, or you do a volume top-up. And then, as I mentioned, 51% don't offer unlimited plans anymore.
So we've kind of got the poll results up there. So, I guess the good news is most people think that it would be valuable to help employees know where they are in this type of an environment.
Okay. So now we're going on to managing mobile data usage. We have a couple of recommendations here based on our research and our calls with customers, potential customers, partners. We're talking about thousands of calls and discussions. And what we're looking at, these type of recommendations. On the agent side itself, the agent should track, the endpoint agent should track non-Wi-Fi data used versus the plan. Now that plan, this doesn't necessarily have to get into a traditional 10 plan, but some type of a limit.
When you say agent, you actually mean the mobile device,
the
smartphone
the agent
itself or the tablet.
Right, the agent on the mobile device itself. That is correct, Joe. And then tracking in-network data usage versus roaming data usage. And that could have some pretty big implications on cost either way, either for the organization that pays or the corporation that pays the data usage or the individual itself, themselves. End user notification. This helps for behavior modification. We think that you need multiple level of alerts, and we'll show you that in a little bit. But these friendly nudges to give you some real-time information where you are is really going to be beneficial for your organization and your employees. So if you have a happy employee, you have a productive employee. And from a technical side, we think it's good to keep this all within a single agent for MDM, or mobile device management, and mobile expense management. You don't want to have to keep on putting more and more agents on your device itself. Like the laptop and desktop, they all consume CPU, and especially now they're consuming battery, and battery usage is always primary now, more than CPU usage.
It's literally like oxygen.
Absolutely. So we think it's good to keep it all within one agent itself. And then from the reporting infrastructure, our recommendations are, to have an enterprise or macro level set of reports or charts and trending over multiple months. This gives you some good actionable intelligence to make decisions, or just to have the information available at your fingertip. And then daily usage over the past month, and then at the company level, and then detailed usage by device.
And this is kind of where I think it's kind of I don't know how many folks on the webinar have ever been involved in telco expense management projects, or maybe it's part of their responsibility. But typically that activity is I call it kind of a rear view mirror look at usage, right? Typically 60, 90 days after usage, the call records get collected, get processed, and that's when you find out who's blew through a cap, who's using a lot of minutes or a lot of megabytes and might be a better candidate for a higher cap plan, who's not using it at all and maybe shouldn't have it anymore. Those are typically,
or may just be able to shrink it down to whatever the bare minimums are.
And so that's historically how people and companies have done this. But what they've always wished or hoped they could have is some kind of early indicator, best case something in real time that tells them where they are right now. So not so much that you can necessarily stop things from happening, but so that it's happening when it's happening versus after it happened 3 months later.
Right, and you can have a little bit of behavior modification, jumping over to Wi-Fi versus at 3 or 4G.
Right.
Absolutely, easy to do on the individual's part, and can really be beneficial from the CFO's office all the way down to the end user.
Yeah, and so the important thing to kind of keep in mind is when you start talking about how can you lock these things down. Well, the answer is, to be honest with you, you can't, right? I mean, you can't literally say, okay, the phone's not allowed to connect over this, that, or the other thing, right? The platform guys don't let you do that. They want people to use the phone.
Absolutely, yeah, and we don't want to stop productivity at all.
Okay, but what you can do is at least know where you stand and maybe see things coming and possibly avert an issue before it becomes an issue. So I think that's really kind of in keeping with the spirit of what we're trying to offer to help people in our platform. And I think it's something that I hear every day, because I talk to lots of people that are in the TEM space, and I talk to lots of people that ask me these questions, and they all kind of see that same problem or issue around managing expenses. Yeah, I can see it after the fact, but I'd like to know where I am right now. I'd like to be able to be looking through the windshield versus through the rearview mirror.
And you know what, Joe? I think that's actually, we were looking at this for quite a while, and getting the real-time responses back is great, especially in a BYOD environment.
Yeah.
Organizations that subscribe to this keep their employees informed, and even though their employees are paying for the data usage, they're happier to know before a big problem occurs. What they perceive as a big problem. It could be $20 over or something like that, but that individual could be a big problem too.
Right.
Okay, so now we're going to jump into what MAS 360 offers. For mobile expense management, we're showing quite a number of the recommendations, really. Real-time usage monitoring, tracking and alerting, policies based for specific groups, and that's what we can do within MAS 360 itself, whether it be MDM policies or mobile expense management policies, and policies for restricting or limiting roaming, integrated reporting and analytics. And we're going to show a couple of screenshots here of what we do.
Yeah, and I think a kind of question came in. Maybe now's a good time to just kind of handle this, just so there's no confusion. So, obviously, most smartphones and tablets, to some degree, have the capability to communicate over Wi-Fi or over cellular networks.
Correct.
And so, the topic that we're talking about today really is the data that goes over the cellular networks, because that's what the cellular plan, that's what your charges,
the overall majority of the charges are going to
be based on. My guess is that, obviously if you're at home and you're connected over your Wi-Fi hotspot through your Comcast or Fios connection, that traffic's not going to be an issue for you.
That's correct,
It's the cellular traffic.
It is the cellular. It's 3 and 4G, regardless of who your provider is. That's what we want people just to understand, what their usage is, and then they can jump from one to the other. And then corporations as a whole can actually use MAS 360 to build in the Wi-Fi profiles of known spots or known hotspots. So when an individual comes into a building, the company building, they automatically go over to Wi-Fi and connect on Wi-Fi, as opposed to communicating through 3 or 4G. And there's really no interaction that needs to be done between the end user and his or her device. It's just automatically done. So for endpoint tracking, our first iteration of this, or first evolution of it, is relatively simple. We're showing both in-network and roaming for the current period itself, and showing it as of that time frame. So it's straightforward. In-network, we're just showing the amount of data being transferred over 3 or 4G, and then a percentage of your plan itself. As you can see right below the 318.1 megabytes. On this one, this is actually my phone for testing. I was 159.1% of my 200 megabyte limit. Mm-hmm. And I don't have any roaming, and I had 3 days to go on my plan itself. Now, these are all a little bit approximations, but it's getting the information out to the user immediately. All they need to do is open up MAS, or they get an alert.
They open up the MAS software that's on their smartphone, and they'll see the mobile usage tab, and
yes.
They can select that.
They'll see this, and it'll update right away,
mm-hmm.
and they'll see what changes are there. And that's for Android or iOS. Very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on this type of alert, this is my third level alert. We think it should be. You should have multiple alerts. Just to give people, let them get their thumb on the pulse of what they're doing over the month or over the billing period itself. And this is my final warning. I've already used over 110% of my monthly in-network data plan. Watch out for that bill.
And these messages are all configurable. This
Absolutely.
This is, you put in whatever you want your users to kind of see here when they hit their threshold levels.
Right, and all these messages really conform to the way either Apple needs it to be coded or Google. The Apple message just actually shows up just like an email, with a little pop-up box, and then Google shows up in your top bar. Then the messengers are very similar, and the accounts are very similar. Very easy to jump between one device and the other. On the enterprise or macro level side, we're showing now what's happening within the organization. This is really everybody put together on all the different types of plans. And as you can see, we're just showing the devices, status of devices within network data usage and the roaming data usage. And it's a very nicely colored chart with the devices in network. And we're going from less than 50% all the way up to 150 to 200% usage of the plans itself. We're also able to track mobile data usage by current network, and you see there's multiple networks here. And as many as you have within your organization, that'll do the tracking. So it's these two here, and it can be 2, 3, 4 more, and still the usage by current country. And I'm sitting in the U.S., and that's why it only has the U.S.
Fair enough.
Okay. And we also decided to try and build some type of trending mechanism or reporting in charts. And you're seeing that it really jumped up from October through November. And we have a little bit of a trend line here. And what we're doing as time progresses, you're going to see bar charts over a 6-month period with a better trend line. Jumping from 0 to 100 in 1 month, it's a little bit skewed. But over a 6-month period, you'll be able to see, oh, geez, really, what's happening within my organization, whether it's a company paid for or an employee-owned device.
Right.
Along with that, we thought, we had the 6-month charts on both roaming and in-network, but we also thought it would be good for the organization to see the daily usage chart over the past month for everybody in their organization. Now, these are just straight numbers. We're not looking at any particular data, and we're not storing any data. It's just a number.
So I think that could be really useful. Especially if you're, really just, kind of seeing that, geez, I'm not where I thought I was. Things have changed among my mobile users, regardless of who's ultimately owns the data plan. That could be pretty valuable.
Absolutely.
So there was a quick question that came in that I'll hit here pretty quickly. If you're using MAS 360, the question was, how do I see that data usage information? So I can only speak for my Android device since I've got it in my hand here. But you open up our MAS app. One of the selection items you'll see is mobile data usage. Click on that, and you'll see your screen similar to the one that Chuck just showed.
Exactly, and iOS it looks very similar too. It's the alerts are just put in a little different spot. The Android has it at the top bar, and iOS has it a little balloon basically on the icon itself. But the data is completely similar on both. And then we also wanted to take a look at detailed reporting, so you can see these couple of devices that actually came in, and we wanted to color code any usage over limits. So we color coded it red. So if you're taking a look at it very quickly, your eyes are going to go right to that red stuff, and you'll be able to say, Fred over here went right through his plan or something. But you're giving some people some information that they can make some changes to. Smart changes, actionable intelligence on this. Okay, so to wrap up.
So thanks, Chuck, for all the information you gave us, especially on the trends, because I think that stuff is really valuable to folks to just know where everyone else is and kind of what's happening around them, right? Because we kind of all know what our micro issues are inside of our own four walls, but kind of often don't know so much about the rest of it. So before we jump into the Q&A, and if you've got questions, fire them off right now, and we'll try to tackle them. In 2 weeks, December 15th, we're going to do our final webinar for 2011. So it's going to be a refresh of a favorite among folks who are regular attendees, which is how to manage iPhones, iPads, and Androids with Exchange ActiveSync. So I think John is going to push out a URL, if he hasn't already, for how to register for that webinar. So, we do that one maybe every 3 or 4 months because, frankly, lots of folks are still using Exchange ActiveSync. And so sometimes they want to know if there's a better way to do things. Sometimes they want to know maybe what's going to, what dead ends they may hit with it. And so, that webinar will fill you in on those kinds of things. So if you're interested, we'd love to see you at that. It's going to be the last one we do this year. Obviously, if you're on, you know that you can go to our website, MAS360.com, click on anything that says Getting Started, and you can take your own eval of MAS360, including the mobile expense management features that Chuck just showed you. So if you're interested, we'd certainly encourage you to do that. It's fully functional. You can put as many devices in it as you want. I think we expired in 30 days, but we're flexible there. So if you're really interested and would like a little bit more time with it, that's not a problem. So we'd love to see you take an eval. Obviously, all of our webinars are recorded. This one's going to get posted tomorrow, and you'll get an email with a link to where you can download the slides and view the recording. The webinar we did 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago or last week? 2 weeks ago. I missed this one. Was Kindle Fire versus iPad 2. It was one of our most heavily attended ones. So if you're interested in knowing what's good or bad about Kindle Fire versus an iPad, please go look at the recording. Those of you who attend regularly know we did a 3-part series on iOS 5, starting right after Apple launched iOS 5. And you can certainly go see those recordings and learn more about all the detailed changes that Apple, or improvements that Apple made to iOS 5. And of course, our Master Center is where you can go to kind of access all of that, plus all kinds of other tools, tricks, tips, information about mobility, information about MAS 360. So I'd encourage you to go visit and browse around. So while we were talking, a bunch of different questions have come in, so I'm going to try to kind of hit them all here. So first question we got is, can you do mobile expense management tracking for BlackBerries?
Today, no. Tomorrow, we're actually looking at putting this in for the BlackBerry device itself.
Okay.
We're looking to have a MAS 360 agent coming on BlackBerry very soon.
Okay.
And the same type of features and functions will be put in that type of thing.
Okay, so Q1 kind of time frame?
Yeah, I would put something out in that time frame.
So coming, but certainly, with iPhone and Android and iPad, it's right now, right here. Another question we got was, what do you see a trend towards or away from who's going to pay for mobile data plans? Will it shift from majority of companies paying to more of a shared model?
Right.
So I'll give you my opinion,
I'll give you mine.
then you can kind of answer, Chuck, because I do think this one's obviously kind of up to each corporation. So I think for corporate provision devices, meaning devices the corporations bought and given to the employee, my guess is 100% of those devices are the data plans corporate paid, and it'll probably stay that way. On the employee-owned device front, obviously the webinar results we got today were about a third the company pays or helps pay, and about 2/3 the employee pays. My guess is that will probably shift more towards employee over time, would be my guess.
I tend to agree with you, Joe. I think especially on the BYOD, it's going to be employee paid. There are some organizations, especially like at the federal level, where you have to have federal devices provision to you, they're going to keep on paying.
Sure.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that this isn't a bad thing for them to check out. So
Right.
it's our tax dollars at work. But what I do see, I agree with you. I think it is going to shift over to the employee on more of a shared thing.
And the reason one of the reasons I think that, it goes back to that data you showed on. So what are the things that are consuming all of this bandwidth? It was more in the lines of entertainment versus information, right? I mean, you know, email doesn't really take up a lot. Web browsing really doesn't take up a lot. Maybe some big attachments, but how many? I don't know, how many big Excel spreadsheets are you going to open up on a smartphone? Probably not that many.
No. More on a tablet.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think the traditional things that people do with devices in a business realm, frankly, aren't the big offenders in terms of, you know, where the bandwidth goes. It seems to be the entertainment things, right? In video and music.
Social communications. Yeah, exactly.
And my guess is companies are going to, you know, recognize that and say, look, you know, we're happy you're getting a lot of use out of this device, but we're not going to subsidize some of those things. So that would be my guess.
No, I think that's a valid statement, Joe. I agree with it. I think that's the way it's going to go, and the numbers are actually backing that up.
Mm-hmm. So there's a question about where some of the stats came from. I think, Chuck, you had cited the sources kind of where you had them, right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, on each one of them, from the stats themselves, are coming off of Nielsen and a lot mobile trends. So each one of the charts are actually, there's a little footnote in there saying where they came from.
Okay, so there's a question about what version of the Android agent is required to see your data usage?
I would say 2.3.
Okay.
Yeah, 2.2. I mean, we think that 2.2 is the right one for enterprises themselves.
Right.
But 2.2 and above, yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know the history of Android, I mean, before version 2.2, anything earlier than 2.2 wasn't really considered, you know, enterprise ready. And so almost every, you know, kind of firm that does mobility for a living will say you should really, you know, not let devices earlier than 2.2 kind of hit your network. With MAS 360, our agent installs on 2.2 and later, and
Absolutely.
Any Android device that meets that criteria, you could track the expense management.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring up one other thing, one other set of numbers, Joe, on the social side that I jumped over a little bit earlier on the applications. Both Facebook and Twitter have grown 166% and 297% respectively in data usage over that same time frame, you know, for the application breakdowns,
yeah.
you know, in the last couple of quarters.
So social media is
getting bigger and bigger.
Add to the wave here.
Exactly, yeah.
So another question came in related to international travelers. There's a person who traveled, obviously must have been roaming and got a large bill. Question is, does our tool work regardless of where a user is in the world?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Right. We don't care. So
we love everybody.
We'll track mobile usage wherever it is incurred.
Correct.
And you know, the alerts will go out as appropriately. Just for folks here who maybe are wondering, and the person who asked this question, I mean, there are ways to you know, turn off roaming, but you know, obviously that affects voice as well as data, which you may not want to do.
Right, but at least, you know, you're not going to be smacked upside the head at the end of the month with a huge bill.
Right.
You'll know it's coming.
Right, and you could certainly do it. I know I had my own experience watching Sling Player, my Slingbox, over my laptop that was tethered to my smartphone, and I blew out my data plan pretty quickly. So it's kind of easy to do. Maybe it was silly. I was away for the weekend. So another question came in about, it seems like it's end user only driven rather than having you know, maybe agency facing. I think what Chuck was showing kind of at the end there is there's a, you know, integrated set of reports. Obviously, you would want the end user to know where they are, and giving them the ability to see that on the device in real time is really valuable. but I think Chuck showed you those management reports, and maybe, Chuck, you just kind of scroll back a couple of slides.
Yes.
These reports are what you see on the portal as an administrator when you log in.
Exactly.
You can also have MAS configured to send you, as an administrator, email alerts as people hit these thresholds. So, frankly, you don't even need to log in to say, well, let me look and see if there's anyone who's, maybe going to a bad place. You can have MAS send you an email if someone hits a threshold.
Absolutely,
and you can know as well as the user. And then, of course, once you log in, you'll have access to these reports as an administrator to see where you are, who that person is, and kind of maybe help them manage their situation a little bit better.
That's true, Joe. With any event within MAS 360, whatever that compliance rule or policy is put in place, and an event hits that, both the end user can be notified, plus an administrator can be notified too. So your administrators will know as soon as your end users know that they hit 75% of their allotted plan for the month, or went over it by 110%.
Question came in, can you identify location for roaming by city or other geographic basis based on GPS? I don't think...
We're not looking for that at this point in time.
Yeah, so we're definitely not tracking things at a connection level or call detail kind of level.
However, what can be done using the administrator portal on MAS itself, if a user is traveling and the administrator gets an automated email that they have met or exceeded a certain threshold, that administrator can get on the MAS portal, go down to the device, and get the last known location.
Right. You could see where it is.
So you can kind of close.
You could see where it is now.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt about that. I guess this is a question, kind of a little bit of an under-the-cover question, which is how do you actually collect the statistics around that? We might need someone from development to tell us that.
Yeah, we're tied into the OS itself, and we just have counters within the MAS 360 agent. We're counting. We're able to figure out what data is being transmitted over 3G and what is not, and we're only tracking the 3 and 4G or the cellular. And then we just hold that internally and then upload that data to the portal itself.
Yeah, my guess, because I know how we do this for laptops, and I would assume we do it the same way for cell phones, smartphones, is we really just monitor the NICs, and when we see an IP address assigned to a NIC, then we know it's got an IP, it's got a connection to the internet, and begin counting. So my guess is it's something like that, but frankly, the engineers would have the final say on that. Well, folks, I think we've exhausted most of the questions that have come in. Okay, here's one more that just came in. Question is, can you track data usage by application? I guess, Chuck, you spoke a lot about, kind of, hey, YouTube's a big offender here.
Right. We are actually looking at putting that into place in our roadmap, and that'll be coming out, sometime in 2012. We just wanted to get this initial piece out to the people first, and then be able to slice and dice it by, say, the top 10 applications over the month, and see who's using what.
So, here's what I would ask folks, because this is, you've got the product manager who owns this sitting here right next to me. If this is something, meaning tracking usage by application, if this is important to you, just send a quick yes via chat, just so we can do a quick real-time voice of customer here. And maybe we can use some of that data to push this up the priority list.
Absolutely.
All right, the yeses are rolling in, Chuck. I think the market is speaking to you right now.
I'm listening. Thank you.
This is what I love about webinars. It's
real
great.
time.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So okay, we hear you loud and clear on that. And Chuck's scribbling notes right now. A couple of other questions just came in. You said you only watch 3G and 4G. Does that mean you don't track CDMA or GSM?
No,
No.
not.
Yeah,
It's
I think
really
we just meant
cellular. It's cellular.
So, yeah, I mean, if you're in a spot where there's only CDMA or GSM, and
We're still going to track
that's
it.
what the NIC negotiates itself down to, we'll still track the usage. So it's anything over cellular. All right, and the yeses are continuing to roll in. So
It's already written down.
Yeah, I think that's
So you're helping our roadmap here.
Great to reflect that in the roadmap. So, folks, thanks for the feedback. Thanks for telling us what's important. Thanks for your time today. If you have any other questions, I think Chuck's email address was on that final slide.
Yeah.
And if you've got other things related to tracking usage in real time out on these mobile devices, Chuck would definitely be the guy to kind of ask or, frankly,
Absolutely.
send your feedback to, because ultimately he's going to be the guy who drives the development of this feature and the evolution of this particular feature of the platform. So you've got the right guy. Another question just came in. Do we track international? I think we hit this one once already. Yeah, we don't care where the usage is occurring. Any usage over the cellular, radio that's in these devices, we're going to track the usage of it.
That's correct, Joe. And it'll actually show up on the page we're looking at right here on the bottom side, bottom right-hand side, with mobile data usage by current country itself. So the top 10.
Okay. Fantastic. So, folks, thanks a lot. Hey, one other thing I wanted to just mention before we all break. There's still a lot of folks connected. So, we've been doing these webinars for, I don't know, about 2.5 years now, maybe, religiously every 2 weeks. And you're going to get an email from us probably sometime early next week, right, John? He's nodding his head. Asking you to help us form what webinars you'd like to see us do in 2012. So there's still a lot of folks on. Wanted to make sure you were aware of that. We'd love to have your feedback, just like we got it here. Obviously, these webinars are for you and for the marketplace, and we want to do things that are relevant and informative. And so we'd appreciate anything you could do to help us steer the direction of the More Webinar program for 2012. So look for that in your inbox in a few days. So thanks again. I'll see you in 2 weeks on December 15th. And until then, you got Chuck's email address if you got any comments.
Send them along. Thanks a lot, folks.
Thanks again.